first game of semi-finals match E between Andreas G and Patar. Both myself and Ghost already going off the rails with our predictions, with expecting Cassell to make it through, but he got knocked out 2-0 by Patar, and Andreas G scoring a 2-0 victory over Monkey Soldier. And already in our other semi-final, Ms. Tiz taking an early 1-0 lead against Mott 9001. So we've got the players spawning in now, and we see Patar up here at the... actually, it's the west, east versus west, isn't it? So we've got the western spawn going straight into bots, and as well, unsurprisingly, Andreas G also going for bots.
It looks like they didn't flub up their spawns either, both players understanding that you kind of need to spawn anywhere besides that blessed hill if you actually want to build anything. And it looks like we do have Patar being the first one to really start queuing up everything. We do see an air factory out of him, so I like this choice just for hopefully we do see a bomber in this case where it will work out in his favor. Of course, you know, with the smaller map, or a smaller map like this where it's basically forged just with rocks instead of lava, it could definitely pay out in his benefit to just quite literally go around the backside of this planet, show up behind Andreas G's base, and then just pick off the 1 or 2 fabricators that are just supposed to be securing the his base's metal.
Well, firstly, I think it's a lot harder to get a bomber snipe off on this map than it is in some others, just because the metal is so tightly concentrated in the base. No, you're right, it's possible because they come around the backside of the planet, and that's going to be the way to try and score an easy win like that. It's important, I think, to note the differences between this map and Forge. There's a lot more metal in your base here than you'd see on Forge. Forge, a lot of it comes down to defending that 4 metal you've got just outside your base. That becomes a key point of contention. If either player loses that early on, then the game's already over. Here, it's all about the metal inside your base, so you're going to see bot raids in a way that you wouldn't see on Forge, where perhaps it's more about what your army looks like.
Bot raids never seen before.
Well,
Commanders
not
doing
on Forge,
things they shouldn't be.
You're not going to be seeing bot raids so much on Forge, at least not around the base area, but here it's all about trying to slip in around the back. And if you can get in the back there and you have enough docks, you could just rip through the metal. There's what, 8 metal just waiting to be killed if you've got enough that you can just run by and kill them one by one. But already Andreas G struggling with his eco there. His metal falling behind Patar, but neither player making any particularly aggressive moves here. Finally, they're rolling out with their docks now at the almost 3-minute mark.
Well, Patar is actually, it looks like we have Andreas G playing a lot more defenses. I think this might be a map that he might not be as well versed in here.
I think we're just seeing it might be the opposition that he has. So he's being a bit more cautious. He knows he's playing Patar. He knows Patar's caliber, and he's sitting slightly more defensively. And it would not surprise me to see that Patar's going to be making a lot of the moves. But Andreas G spreading out. He's taking all the different entrances that he has available to him. He's certainly going to be testing out Patar, but Patar rolling around with bombers at the north there. So he's going to catch that docks group who's paying attention. No, rolling past. Looks like he's going to be going for a
no, he wants that fabricator. He wants that fabricator. And
he's going to get that fabricator. Oh, there's more. Oh, he should have bombed the one behind it. There's 2
he's
there.
Gonna. Oh no, he knows. Patar ain't silly.
They
he's
can dodge.
Oh big,
no!
Big damage.
No dodging from Patar there. Sorry,
no take your fabricators
there.
and your docks too.
Yeah, and Patar already taking a very early lead here against Andreas G. This is looking very good for him. Unfortunately, it's possible to dodge those bombers with the fabricators, but unfortunately, Andreas G not making the right moves there.
This is concerning. I think he's really starting to fall into the this guy's better than me and he's going to absolutely wreck me mindset, because right now we see very little resistance here. Andreas G getting like to 5. Oh, we might get the fabricator, which would be nice to see, but it just, it isn't as much damage as Patar just dished out to Andreas G. And I mean, he's only got 1 fabricator rebuilding. It's 68 metal for Andreas G versus 110 here for Patar. And I'm really concerned because right now the mindset of Andreas G just must be at 100 miles per hour. How do I kill off Patar? He's part of the PA gods. This guy's supposed to be literally robotic Jesus. How do I kill this guy? And that's concerning because from the games we've seen earlier with Andreas G, I mean, it was just Andreas G. There was nothing that the other players could do. And I'm really concerned because now his mindset must just be absolutely fractured. Yeah,
he's been put a bit on the back foot there with that raid. But he's managed to score some resource wins there. The gap between them not unsurmountable. There's only 1 factory difference right now, and I think he's only 2 metal extractors behind. So certainly he can recover, and he's already made a transition into vehicles now and grenadiers. So he's the hell with this raiding game. I'm not going to be coming out on top of that. He's moving straight into trying to critical mass tanks, Grenadiers. Meanwhile, Patar going for an all-docks approach. He's just going to be trying to swarm out those docks, use these resources, because he is floating. He's actually, in terms of spending, he's not ahead of Andreas G. He's just going to try and swarm with docks and go and try and get a win that way.
Well, Andreas G is starting to rebuild his base, so I really like that he's definitely staying in. He's definitely going to be a fighter for this one. He's trying to just get the economy that he needs. And, I mean, personally, especially when I've realized how OP docks were, especially on playing like Forge, or especially on pace or piece like this match, mass docks is going to be super viable, just because as long as Patar keeps Andreas G's tank number down, he's going to just be able to walk anywhere he wants to with the mass docks.
Well, Patar seems to have given up on taking metal now. He's not... Andreas G has completely caught up. They now have identical economies.
Hashtag the comebacks.
Yeah, well, Patar still hasn't retaken the metal that he lost in his own base. He's just almost completely stopped expanding. He has more fabbers. I think they're just trying to build factories. I think he's just trying to get enough docks and critical mass where he sees that he has the advantage, but I'm not sure he's got enough to make that work. But with Andreas G inadvisably splitting his forces between the two different entrances, Patar with docks, he could focus them all at one point and score some nice wins.
I was going to say, this is interesting because it looks like Patar is almost trying to go for more of an all-in strategy here on this match, which I'm not really a big fan of, because especially with all the metal, this isn't Forge. You know, you don't need to go for an all-in dock strategy to try and win the game. You really could just play more of an aggressive dock strat with some back expansion to kind of guarantee that you are winning the map in terms of, you know, metal extractors. But it looks like he really is just trying to get as much as he can get out before... I mean, I guess he must have that sixth sense before those mass tanks really start showing up. And the problem with that is he's not being as aggressive as he should be with these docks. Now, Andreas G, though, with some... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
With those docks, we see them both. We know those docks are not getting touched at all by Patar's units, and right now he needs to start sending something back because there's no answer for him. These docks are going to just kill everything. They see the metal extractors, the fabricators, the energy. They are just going to kill everything if this is allowed to happen.
Patar's been playing very strangely. I mean, Andreas G made 2 attacks in the center there, both of which Patar could have shut down easily, and Patar's allowed himself just to be danced around by Grenadiers, and we saw in at least one of those confrontations, inexplicably, he was moving his docks with the Grenadiers. So, in effect, he was allowing Andreas G to be far more effective than he should have been, because his docks could have swarmed those enemy Grenadiers, destroyed them easily, but they were moving slowly because he'd move them as one with the Grenadiers, and he's doing it again now as he closes in on the tanks. He's got to move those docks separately. He's got to use that speed. Otherwise, what did he have them for? You may as well, but he's just charged straight into the mouth there of Andreas G, and it feels like Patar's throwing it away, and he's lost half of it. He's lost most of his base, and he's not rebuilding it. I do not know what Patar is doing, but Andreas G here playing a really solid game once again.
I was going to say, we saw this in the match with Patar versus Pyman. Patar just, I don't think he understands how to close the game. He was, I mean, I would want to say, before crap hit the fan for his entire base, I mean, he was just, everything was going in his favor. He was winning, he was killing fabricators, he was just doing everything he needed to. And then suddenly, I mean, one thing led to another, and suddenly he's just down in everything. Docks, you can't be behind in the docks, especially versus tanks, or you're gonna lose. Commander's very forward. He needs to move this commander forward if he wants to have any opportunity to try and get it in this game. He has to put grenadiers, flame tanks, and docks in his own base, his metal extractors, just to keep safe, when really this radar should be doing what it needs to be doing. He has his air army staring at some walls here just because he can't let that happen again.
Yeah, he's certainly starting to turn into a face-off in the centre here, and a face-off that's not going to work out very well for Patar. They're very even right now, but if this carries up, Patar's starting to catch up, starting to rebuild his metal, but if this is allowed to carry on, then Andreas G is going to start pulling ahead. He's got a better eco, he's managed to turn that into production. It's just starting to float again, he needs to keep it under control, but this is a great opportunity for him to, and you can see he's starting to make some pushes into the centre, and Patar using his Grenadiers smartly there to keep Andreas G back. But if Andreas G can take either of these centre locations, then Patar's going to be in real trouble, because that is a lot of metal there.
Now, it looked like Andreas G was trying to build some Pelicans for possibly Inferno drops. I think that would have been absolutely fantastic. I don't know how far they would have gotten, because Patar does have all those units still in his base. Now, at this point, I think all Andreas G needs to do is just bulk up all of his units in one spot and just pull the trigger and just damage Pata in any way, shape, or form, and then just kind of take one of these island expansions. At this point, Orbital still obviously isn't an idea in either player's minds, so the only thing that they need to do at this point is just win one of these islands and just start pressuring with that extra economy they have. Now, looking at basic expansion wise, it looks like Pata does still have at least 3 or 4 metal extractors that he can still grab to really just try and even up that expansion with Andreas G. Same thing against Andreas G though, he does have 1 or 2 metal extractors he needs to get. A big Docks army though moving in from the Santa Claus position on that far northern route here, and it looks like this might start the trigger for the giant battles, as now Andreas G is going to react to Pata. Pata is going to react to Andreas G, and suddenly units are going to start dying.
But Pata is actually withdrawing in the center at a time when perhaps I think he could have pushed there. This Docks acting as a nice distraction. Unfortunately,
oh, but the Grenadiers
they are getting picked off. They're not microing. They're not dodging those shots. And that's again there. Perhaps take out a few, but that was unfortunate. He lost the. Those Docks should have been a really destructive force, and all of them got lost. And Pata didn't use that as a great opportunity while the forces of Andreas G were divided to make a center push. And now he's starting to push forward in the center. But Andreas G bring his forces back. We're seeing a bit of a Mexican standoff here, very even in terms of economy. Andreas G taking a bit of a factory lead here. Units in favour of Pata, but that's probably because he's got his mostly bot approach versus the tanks. And two big confrontations going here in the centre. Both it's going to come down to whose grenadiers work the best, I think. Perhaps needs to move those bolos forward. Andreas G though, he's dancing everything with his grenadiers, and he needs to dance them separately because if the bolos aren't in range, he doesn't have as much firepower as Pata does.
I don't know. It's just I really would have liked to see one player just decide to group them up on one side. I do agree though, Pata definitely should have started to move out when those Docks were moving all the units, and definitely should have done a lot more with that, but just missed micro maybe from Pata and a lot of maybe in-game pressure coming out.
Well, Pata in full retreat there. He's withdrawing. He's having to bring his command up to shore up. He's pulling his grenadiers back because he has to pull the grenadiers back to make use of their range. But unfortunately, it is leaving him rather exposed. Looks like he's going to hold out there, but he's lost some of his forward metal extractors doing that. And now Andreas G taking this opportunity to start walling up. Not sure how useful it's going to be considering he's up against a nearly 100% grenadier army. But yeah, and Pata sensibly taking some of this metal in the centre, using that distraction, and I think Andreas G is going to have to start trying to do the same thing, because he can't let Pata just have that metal. And both players seem to have, since Pata's last raid, have given up on that raiding, and I think Pata looks rather vulnerable to a raid.
Ooh, good bombers though. Good bombers coming out of Andreas G. I was going to say, at this point, it's a matter of who decides to use their bombers first, and I think Andreas G picked up on it first because, well, Pata doesn't have any anti-air. He does have these hummingbirds, but once those die, I mean, Andreas G really is the only player in this game with actual spinners on the ground to try and protect his ground army.
Well, Andreas G has got a tier 2 bot factory queued up now, so he's not going to go for the shellers. He's going to go for, I'm guessing, the Gillies. He's going to be going for the all-snipe bots.
Gillies? What?
Yeah, the Gillies. G-I-L-E. The Gillies.
Gillies. Like a fish gill, mate.
Gill. Yeah, okay. Gillies.
You Gilly, bro?
We'll go with that, whatever. English, how does it work? But we see another...
Well, I mean, like Gilly, like a ghillie suit, like a sniper person, right?
I think you are correct there. But we see another confrontation happening in the centre here. Andreas G once again making a push. He's realised he has to take that metal out, so he's pushing Pata back, and I think he's going to score wins against every one of these.
Bomber needs... Okay, good. The bombers need to move in.
Oh, he's taken out the anti-air, but all the grenadiers, they go down. None of the metal dies, so Pata looking pretty good now. He's going to turn that resource into spending. He's got a bit of a float going on, but he is starting to pull ahead in terms of eco. Hasn't turned it into factories yet, though. And we see the Deep Space Radar going up now from Andreas G, ready for any sneaky off-world play.
I was going to say, I would really like to see Pata maybe put 2 or 3 more fabricators in that little 8 metal island spot. Get some pelters up, get some turrets up, and that will easily open up Andreas G's base, because right now he can't attack into this walls. These grenadiers are just fantastic for absolutely killing anything that is in between them, an opponent, and a wall. I mean, there's just no way that Pata can attack this, and it looks like he is starting to build this pelter, although with only 1 fabricator, so it's going to be a while, and no, we've got units moving everywhere, but it looks like Andreas G is going to be the one that pulls the trigger here.
Yep, and JSG again making the push, and again it's because he realises he has to take out that medal. Although I think he could get a bunch of that probably from these side groups. He's sending those round, but he's been spotted on radar by Patar, who's now moving his docks to respond to that. And both players just sort of massing up in the centre here. But Andreas G making a nice push. He's going to shut down this pelter that Patar was trying to get up. A nice move by Patar, but unfortunately that's not going to work out for him. And Andreas G's got enough grenadiers here that he can keep pushing on. It's a shame that he's not really just focusing all of his troops on one side. Does Patar know? Nope, Patar does, so he wouldn't be able to focus all down one side. But the Grenadiers of Andreas G on the side, on the flanks, they're getting picked up. Another massive Docks raiding force coming in. Bombers moving to respond. But those are going to get quite far, I think, and there's a fabricator they can pick up as well. But Andreas G now has taken this centre, but not moving for the medals, just dancing, trying to get some wins.
I was going to say, Patar needs to just kind of respect that things need to move on here, and it looks like I did just get word from the giant orbital space Jesus above that it looks like Matisse did in fact kill off Mott to move into the finals here. So the winner of this will be moving against somebody here. I don't know what the brackets look like, but it looks like I do have at least one half of my bracket correct.
Well, just to clarify, that'll be the winner of this set rather than... Oh, in actual fact, Andreas G managed to see some tanks around the back. But it'll be the winner of this set rather than the winner of this game. It's the first of the semi-final match, the E matches. So whoever... This is the first game. It's best of 3. Whoever wins this will then go through to... whoever wins this and another game will go on through to play in the finals.
Well, you do say another game, and it looks like Andreas G wants to be the one that has the one up here against Patar. So... These tanks, I don't know where they decided. I guess they just decided to kind of join in the fray, and they're going to pick off some metal structures here against Patar. And, I mean, Patar's just base, he just seems to be constantly reeling and really never able to expand. This Tier 2 factory is actually already starting to uninstall itself, and the commander's just trying to get there, but you'll probably catch it around the 8 or 9% ratio, and at this point, it just doesn't matter. I think Andreas G has broken Patar and should just start expanding.
I think we're seeing here the Bolos have given Andreas G an advantage in that he could force these confrontations, he could keep the push going. And
Grenadiers with the damage though.
Absolutely, he's closing in on his commander. We just see, he doesn't have the Grenadiers, I think, to pull this off though. He's having to pull back. They're caught up by that Grenadier force, and once again they're falling back behind their lines. But Patar's eco has just, down about 80 from where it was not that long ago. So Andreas G really controlling the flow of play here.
Greatly. I would like to see maybe 1 or 2 spinners move up into this northern metal extractor here just to try and get rid of those bombers so that he can start expanding in his area. The problem with this, though, is Patar has a huge army, and I think he's starting to feel the pressure. At this point, I would like to see him just go for an all-in. I don't think he can really sustain this pressure. I mean, he just doesn't seem to really know how to just keep these 2 lanes in his favor. I mean, he keeps trying to split off lesser armies against Andreas G's armies that are always just... They always seem numerically ahead, really.
Well, Andreas G, though, he's rather crippling his economy. He's not building any fabricators at that Tier 2 factory. He needs to find something, and there's a great big push from Patar, who I think is now going for an all-in. His commander's following up on that force. He's going in there to do as much damage as he can, and there's not a lot Andreas G has to respond to this. He's lost a lot of his forces in that push. Looking rather in trouble. Gilly's going to come forward, and that commander actually can be quite exposed if the Gilly can get sight on him.
The problem that I see with this all-in from Patar is that he did decide to split off some of his units. If he knew he was going for an all-in, he should have taken everything he could and just said, alright, let's do this. And the problem now is he's only fighting with half his fighting army force because the rest are still just kind of grouping up. And this Gilly is just getting more and more time to just find a unit, kill it, back up a little bit, find a unit, kill it. And this all-in that Patar sort of had is effectively... It's effectively been stopped, really. These Grenadiers will eventually kill off these Grenadiers. Bombers, though, moving in. They're going to see the Tier 2. Doesn't kill off the Gilly that it was, I think, trying to focus. And now there are no more bombers here for Patar. And another good save here from Andreas G.
But Andreas G really gets eco under control. Even though he has the better eco, his efficiency is quite poor. So really, he's not running that far ahead of Patar in terms of production of units. And again, Patar making another big push here with his Grenadiers. And it really feels like Andreas G is hanging on, but he's at least smartly moving a tank force around the back there. He's going to do a response of his own, going to go take out some resources, which is a good move. If he can hold this and take those resources out around the back, then I think that could be claiming the game for him. And Patar, smartly realising this, moving in deeper with his commander this time, really going for it. But I don't think he's got the troops to break through. And we see the pelter of Andreas G now getting involved as well. He's pulling the Gillies back. He needs to pull them back faster.
Sniper? What? Andreas G's sniper is starting to fall here. I was gonna say I was really concerned because I saw the laser shots and the ghillies were just kind of dropping like it's hot. So he does see, if we do look into Andreas G's vision, he does have vision over where the commander is. There is a radar, and this pelter will definitely kill off a lot of these units here. These grenadiers are just trading so efficiently with this mountain face in between them and
well, you see as well, just to interrupt you there, sorry, the ghillies do have a lock on the commander, both of them targeting everything they're targeting the commander.
Click, boom, boom.
And Patar, unfortunately, his all-in did not work, did not have the troops to push through that. Excellent game, I have to say, and some really nice play by Andreas G there. Did look like he was in a bit of trouble at the start, but really turned it around nicely. And Patar just seemed to run out of ideas there. I think, just to guess where that went wrong for him, I would say he messed up his docks early on, and then he didn't push. He didn't push until he had grenadiers, and then when he did have grenadiers, he crippled his docks by moving them as one. And if he'd pushed sooner and harder with the docks forces he had, I think Andreas G was looking pretty vulnerable. He hadn't built up the tank forces he needed yet to really respond to those huge dock forces that were on the field. I think Patar he didn't feel confident enough to push, and he missed his window of opportunity. And then Andreas G's distribution of vehicles to grenadiers was better, because we saw in every confrontation that went on, the grenadiers had to retreat from Patar. They had to keep retreating because they had to keep the distance, but then that allowed Andreas G to always push and always take out resources in every attack that he made.
Yeah, that's very well summed up. I mean, I think the only thing that I would like to add was just the fact that I guess he didn't decide to go for those 8 metal extractors on either side. I believe he did have control of the southern side at one point with those with that wall and the like 14 or 15 tanks that were chilling there. Maybe an air fabricator. I mean, there was quite a few times where I think maybe slipping in a sneaky air fabricator just to kind of grab 1 or 2 of them would have been absolutely fantastic, of course. And I mean, Andreas G just definitely taking a very commanding lead. It didn't look like Patar was ever playing kind of defensive, but at the same time, neither player really ever got the advantage over the other.
Yeah, did turn to a bit of an excellent stand-up, and we saw at one point Patar actually take a resource lead. But unfortunately, because of his all-grenadier army and the fact that he always had to retreat from anything that was attacking, he had no means of holding that lead. Grenadiers... Grenadiers can be great, but great combined with something. I don't think as a standalone force that they work, because they're so vulnerable, so easy to kill. Great unit, but they've got to be able to hide behind something, and we saw that the Grenadier and Bolo forces continually took the day when it came down to confrontations, just because Andreas G could push.
Definitely. I would have liked to see, when Patar was taking those metal expansions on the northern side, I would have really liked to see maybe 2 or 3 fabricators just to grab some turrets or maybe something to make it more defensive. I mean, I think if he would have held that, of course, in the game of ifs, I think he would have won it. But of course, the units, the Bolo and Grenadier army, as you mentioned, just went out against standalone Grenadiers.
Yeah, the walls from Patar might have worked nicely, because with the Bolos in that force and Patar having more Grenadiers, those confrontations would have worked that better for him. But I was very pleased to see that Andreas G did not forget to keep, and in fact neither player forgot to raid. Even though they were staring at each other down the centre, they did use those side aisles, like we talked about earlier, to launch raids around the back to try and keep their opponent's resources down. Very smart play from both players.